Rocky Top Insider instant reaction to Tennessee baseball's 12-6 win over Indiana to advance to the Knoxville Regional Final, which will take place here in Lindsey Nelson Stadium on Sunday night. But Tennessee now 2-0 in the Knoxville Regional, win against Northern Kentucky on Friday night, and a win against Indiana tonight. A lot of offense early, took a 9-0 lead, and then just kind of coasted from there on out.
Yeah, one of the more anticlimactic regional NCAA tournament games you're ever going to see. And I made the joke after the game, not quite the excitement that Tennessee had on Saturday night in the regional round last year when they had that crazy game against Clemson. But, Tennessee goes up 9-0 in the third inning in this one. Indiana doesn't completely go away, but they never really do enough to make it super interesting either. And then a 4-hour game ensues in which Tennessee just kind of the whole time keeps Indiana at arm's length. So it wasn't necessarily all perfect for Tennessee, especially on the mound in this one. I think 3 different times they stranded the bases loaded, so opportunities to do more offensively. But overall, a night where Tennessee played very well and took care of business against a solid Indiana team.
Funny you made that comment about referencing last year's second game in the regional, which was, of course, the thriller against Clemson in 14 innings. I said the same thing, but I also was like, but it took about the same amount of time.
It did take about the same amount of time.
Probably the game time last year against Clemson was close, probably a little more, but close to tonight's game time, as it was, as you said, a 4-hour game in tonight's win. But Drew Beam, of course, tonight's starting pitcher, a little bit of a weird outing for Beam because he was super dominant first 2 innings, 1-2-3, 1-2-3 back-to-back. But then with Tennessee's offense batting through the order in back-to-back innings, it's a long wait. It's a long wait time for Beam, and maybe he got a little cold, who knows, but the command wasn't quite there in his last 2 innings, only ended up pitching 3 2/3 tonight.
Yeah, it was just the second time this season that he hasn't gotten into the 4th inning at least. I guess the Georgia game was the other one that it happened. And yeah, it was very strange because I think Tony Vitello said this. It seemed like he was really, really sharp in his first 2 innings. 2 strikeouts in the first inning. His off-speed stuff, multiple off-speed pitches, it felt like he was locating really well. And that's kind of what got away from him in some ways. He hits 2 batters. He walks another fastball to Indiana's leadoff hitter. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Devin Taylor?
Yes, Devin Taylor, right over the heart of the plate that gets knocked for a 3-run homer. So that's kind of was a tale of 2 type of outings for Beam. And yeah, maybe it was the fact that he had 2 very long waits, but he also pitched well after the first long wait. So I don't necessarily know if it's that easy. I will say, complete anecdotal, no logic, or maybe not no logic, no evidence, no research to back this up. I feel like Beam always pitched better in tight games. Whereas if he has a lead, it feels like things get he doesn't pitch as well with a big lead.
I did connect tonight's outing for Beam a little bit to Day 3 LSU last year in Baton Rouge when Tennessee was hammering Thatcher Hurd and
that's a great callback.
And Drew Beam was struggling.
Yeah.
And it was a high-scoring game, and Tennessee was up a lot, but couldn't keep LSU at bay really. So it was a little bit like that.
Yeah, kind of the anti-Chase Dolander in some ways, but no, you're right. It was strange. Obviously, in a lot of ways, a good night to have that because he had so much run support, and even in a game where he got pulled with 2 outs in the 4th inning, like we just said, nothing ever felt dicey. But it did make Tennessee use a lot of pitchers tonight. They dispersed it. Andrew Binke's probably the only one. I'm sure we'll talk more about him in a second. That is done for the weekend. If this thing were to go to Monday, I think everybody else would still be able to pitch some more. But yeah, it was a good time to have maybe not a great start for Beam, but certainly when things get ratcheted up, this is the postseason. He's the one starter for Tennessee that is kind of a constant. You'd like a little bit more consistency.
Before we dive into a couple of performances offensively tonight, let's hit on Andrew Binke. Arguably his best outing of the season. He did pitch really well in his second appearance in in Hoover against Vanderbilt, right? Was the Vanderbilt game?
Yes.
No.
It was State.
Mississippi State.
Yes.
The third game they played in Hoover.
Phillips was Vanderbilt.
Phillips was Vanderbilt. Yes, I knew that.
Binke was
the Xander Marcus stack. But yes, Binke against Miss State was really good in Hoover. Tony Vitello talked about it post-game. That was probably the best Binke has thrown the ball. But when you talk about complete outing in a Tennessee uniform for Andrew Binke, career high innings pitched tonight with 3 1/3, career high number total pitches. Andrew Binke was just really good and, quite frankly, shoved against a really good lineup tonight.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think it would be a little incomplete to not mention that he had an outing between that against LSU where he came in and threw, 8 straight balls? Or walked 9 balls?
It was 8 of 9 pitches were balls.
Yeah,
yes.
2 walks. And he comes in tonight in a big spot with 2 on against Mitchell, walks him on 4 pitches. And the first time I was like, oh my goodness, here we go again.
Yeah.
But then from there, he was just so good. And, I have joked, I said, just as we all expected, that critical game 4 of the regional, Andrew Binke would be Tennessee's best pitcher. And he was Tennessee's best pitcher tonight. And he just kind of cruised from there. I think there was another inning, maybe the 5th or 6th, that Indiana put a runner on third with 2 outs. Christian Moore made a nice diving stop to get out of the inning, but there was nobody else on base. So even then, cost of doing business to give up a run when you have a lead like that. He was just in the strike zone consistently, a lot of weak contact, and it didn't feel like, I felt like most innings maybe one guy got on a couple times with 2 outs, but it felt like he was in complete control. And another good sign is, you talk about Tennessee trying to expand their depth on the mound, to see Binky give them kind of a long relief outing like this.
And Binky doing this tonight almost made me think that Tennessee wasn't going to have to use Aaron Combs tonight, which would have given them, Aaron Combs, Nate Snead, of course, Andrew Sechrist, who's going to start on Sunday night. So they ended up having to use Aaron Combs as Marcus Phillips and Dylan Loy, who relieved Andrew Binky, weren't very great tonight.
No, you're right. And, maybe a little bit better than the results showed. I mean, I think Phillips had a strikeout strike 3 that was in the zone, called a ball. He ends up walking. And then, Loy faced 2 batters. He gives up 2 hits. Neither of them were just roped by any means.
A couple singles.
Yeah, a couple singles. So I kind of thought they'd give Loy a little bit more time. Tony said they were always going to use Combs tonight. He was in the bullpen from the 4th inning. That is accurate. I don't know if that's really the case. Maybe that is, no matter what, they were going to use Combs. But it did, to me, kind of feel like Snead's available, Combs available tomorrow. Indiana, Southern Miss, go and pack up the bags tonight, because this thing's not getting to Monday if Tennessee had all that behind Sander. But either way, Combs came in, he locked the door, he did not let things get dicey at all, despite Tennessee unable to catch a pop-up in there. So a really good outing for him has kind of been the case the last stretch, really last 2 months of the season.
As you can probably see on the video, it is actually raining in Lindsey Nelson Stadium right now.
Yes.
Well, it was raining home runs earlier as Tennessee was teeing off on Indiana starter Connor Foley. Connor Foley is a guy who's really talented, can pump 98 like he was in the first inning, shut down Christian Moore, Blake Burke to start off the game. It's like, all right, here we go. 3-pitch strikeout for Semo to lead off the game. That hardly ever happens. But Tennessee was able to get to him. Lots of offense tonight, but one I want to, point out more than any is Dean Curley hitting his 10th home run. His first home run since April 7th series finale at Auburn. So he kind of gets everything going for Tennessee. Billy Amick also had a grand slam. That's 3 straight games for Billy with a homer. And Cal Stark had a homer. 4 total home runs for Tennessee tonight. Semo as well, all 4 from different players. But the offense early, and specifically Dean's home run, was huge.
Yeah, I want to kind of 3 at-bats I want to talk about. Tony, I thought, made a great point. Billy Amick, he worked a walk in his first at-bat. After the first 2 batters, it was like, holy cow, here we go. And it was a really good at-bat. Tennessee didn't get anything out of it, but I think Tony kind of said Billy showed the guys the way, and it kind of put a chip in the armor a little bit. So I thought that was big, even though it didn't lead to anything. Dean Curley's home run, it had been, I think it was 81 at-bats since he had last hit a home run, Game 3 at Auburn. And it's funny, Eric Kane and Volquist has done a good job of tracking, being aware of when the last home run was and running a lot of that stuff. And I was like, last game at Auburn, right before he hit it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that felt good for Curley, and that was kind of the big one that helped Tennessee take control. But I'll even go, or take the lead, I guess. Yeah, and then I'll even go to before the Christian Moore home run, to turn the lineup over. Cal Stark gets hit by a pitch, and it goes into a 2-run home run. And Christian Moore, who got struck out on 3 pitches his first time up, first pitch he saw opposite field, 390 feet. So those were a handful of at-bats that I felt really set the tone for Tennessee. And just in a night where, on top of the home runs, I felt like Tennessee had a lot of really good, really competitive at-bats.
Well, it's starting to come down in LNS, so we're going to wrap this up quickly here. But a couple of quick notes. 5 of Tennessee's 9 offensive starters tonight.
That was a great stat you pulled.
2 walks apiece. That's wild. And 5 of the 9 starters also had 2 hits apop. No one had 3 hits. 5 players had 2 hits. So it was a complete night for Tennessee's offense. Also, shout out Cal Stark for flipping the lineup 3 times with 2 outs. That's key from a 9-hole hitter such as Cal. And shout out Semo for having 2 really nice defensive plays when, that doesn't happen quite too often. But before we get out of here, Ryan, expectations for tomorrow night from Tennessee. They'll play the winner of tomorrow afternoon's game between Southern Miss and Indiana.
Yeah, no, I think you have to like Tennessee. Just 2 teams that certainly we saw tonight. Indiana is not going to have a ton of pitching. Southern Miss will have more pitching, but the offense, you feel good. Tennessee's going to be able to keep Southern Miss at bay more than Indiana, which I think even showed us tonight that's a good offense that the Hoosiers have. So I think Tennessee will win tomorrow night. I think both Southern Miss and Indiana kind of present different challenges for Tennessee, right. And it'll be interesting to see how that first game goes tomorrow, because I really have no idea, no expectation for who will win that one.
Regional final, first pitch for the regional final in Lindsey Nelson tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern time. More details to come on RockyTopInsider.com tonight, and full coverage from tonight's Tennessee win. For Ryan, I'm Jack. We'll see you next time.